Hey Nature School, today we're going to talk about pines, firs, and spruces. Well, all three of those kinds of trees are in a big group of trees called conifers. Conifers are a tree that has needles as their leaves, and conifers also grow cones. We're going to take a look at some of these species. I'm going to show you different types of spruces, firs, and pines. So let's go. Oh, here we have a type of pine tree. Now, pine trees, like all conifers, have needles, but pine trees specifically have bundles of needles. So this pine tree has a bundle of 5 needles. Some pine trees have bundles of 2, but they all come together all the way down together on this twig here. And so this tree is called a white pine. Look how tall that is. The branches are arranged around the trunk, so it kind of looks like a world arrangement, meaning the branches kind of wrap around the trunk all the way up and all the way down. Another way to identify a white pine is by the bundles of needles. White pines have bundles of 5 needles. So here's a bundle right here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So an easy way to remember is white pines have 5 needles in one bundle, and white has 5 letters, so WHITE. Here is another type of pine tree. So how do we know it's a pine tree? They have needles, and not only they have needles, they have bundles of needles. So remember when I said, do you remember when I talked about the white pine? And the white pine has 5 needles per bundle. Red pine has 2 needles per bundle, and the needles are super duper long. Look how long those needles are. You can identify some pine trees by the cone itself. The red pine cone is a little bit of oval shape, and they're a little bit pointed at the end of the scale. This is the pine cone of the red pine. Now, pine cones serve a very important purpose of the tree. This is where the seeds of the pine tree are in. They're in between these big, big scales. This tree right here is called a spruce or a Norway spruce. Spruce's needles are a little bit different than pine needles. So if you look at the twig right here, spruces do not have bundles like pine trees. One needle is connected to the twig right here. And you'll see when the needles shed or break off, the twig is a little bit bumpy. Another way to identify a spruce is the needle shape. A lot of spruce's needles are pretty pointed and hard, and they also have 4 sides to them. Next tree we're going to talk about are firs. Now, firs don't typically grow in forested areas in Ohio, but we do use them a lot for Christmas trees. This is a close-up of needles on a fir tree. Fir needles look like darts with suction cups at the end. And when the needles fall off, the twigs are nice and smooth. So that's a really, really good characteristic of a fir. Many different types of wildlife depend on conifers for survival in the wild. So let's talk about some of these animals that rely on these trees. This is a bird called a red crossbill, and red crossbills live way up north in the coniferous forest. They have specialized beaks. So take a look at the beak. The top and bottom are crossing over each other. That's a specialized beak to help them extract pine seeds from pine cones. Well, they will take their beak and insert it in between scales of a pine cone, twist the beak, and the beak kind of acts like a lever to open up the scales of the pine cone. And then they will use their beak and tongue to take out the pine seed. This is an American red squirrel, and you can find these in Ohio. They do like to live in pine forests because one of their main foods are pine seeds. So if they can't find pine seeds in their area, they will move on to other food sources. They'll eat many kinds of different mushrooms, they'll eat insects and other plant materials. This is called a Kirtland's warbler. And Kirtland's warblers have a very, very specific habitat. They only nest in jack pine forests. Now, these forests are only found in northern Michigan and also found in parts of Wisconsin. Due to habitat loss and competing with another bird called the brown-headed cowbird, these guys were put on the endangered species list. An endangered species is an animal that's at serious risk at becoming extinct. Lots of conservation efforts went in to protect the species. So a lot of habitat rebuilding, a lot of planting the jack pines that they need to reproduce. And as of last year, they were delisted from the endangered species, which means they are not an endangered species anymore. Thank you everybody so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I hope you have a great day. Bye.